Welcome into Jets Nation Radio, sponsored by Betway. Make sure you like and subscribe to Jets Nation Radio so you never miss a podcast. Welcome into Jets Nation Radio. I'm Angus. Hout. We're going to do a quick little podcast. We got a couple big signings to talk about with the Winnipeg Jets. Ray, before I get to you, we got to talk about our good friends at, Betway. Betway. If you're looking for some betting odds, make sure you go check out Betway in Ontario. You can bet on NHL futures. You can bet on the CFL. Listen, you're a Bombers fan. I'm an Elks fan, and a wise man would bet on the Elks to lose tomorrow. So go bet on your Bombers with Wow. Sport Betway. Don't worry about the sports. Betway is where you want to go. Ray, how are you doing this week, buddy?
Pretty good, pretty good. We got a couple signings this week, and I think that a lot of Jets fans can't really complain about what they're at, and I think it's really great direction that they're going into.
Yeah, this is an exciting next couple of years for the Winnipeg Jets. It really doesn't feel like the window has closed on this team like many of us thought earlier in the offseason. We got both Gabe Vilardi and Morgan Barron signed for really good contracts. Like you could argue that Morgan Barron's contract could look like Gabe Vilardi's.
Yeah, I think Morgan Barron's contract, I think it's him betting on himself. Like it's a 2-year deal. It's a deal where he knows that he can be better, but he's also RFA status at the end of the deal. So the Jets still can have that control over the player, and that's a great thing that the Jets are not signing these players to walk to free agency. That's kind of what Dubois was trying to do. And then these players are still going to be the RFA status. So I think it's a great deal for both the player because they're betting on themselves and Barron, and he could be worth a lot more in 2 years. And the Jets are betting on maintaining a good cap circulation and making sure that they have a competitive team.
Yeah, it's a fantastic deal. And I mean, I know some people were like, he's a Barron is a guaranteed second liner at some point, but I think that he's pretty content being a third line guy. I mean, obviously you want to push yourself, but for a million and change, getting a middle six guy, like, does it get much better than this?
Yeah, I don't think it really does. And I think this deal really reminds me of the deal Adam Lowry had before he had his 5-year extension at 3.2. Lowry was at a deal like around like 1.1 ish, and he was a really good, effective bottom six player. And we saw that we had a lot of good contracts going into that 2018 playoff run, including Lowry. So if Barron can be any indication of that good of a contract into a year or two from now, and then him getting the bag when he gets like 20 goals or something like that when he's all studly. So I think it's just a great deal, and I think that Barron has offense to be had too. Like this guy was had over 20 points, and this was his first full season. So this is not the finished product of what Barron could be. And even if he's just a really great bottom six player, he has the size, he has the 75 stitches to prove he's a warrior. And I think that Barron is just what encompasses what Winnipeg wants to be.
Yeah, good, hardworking guy that everyone just genuinely likes. I don't know if there's a single person that could badmouth Morgan Barron in this city. Uh, yeah, 70 games last year, 8 goals, 13 assists, 21 points, +4. You gotta like this. And at the price cap, what was the official number here? I'm just blanking a
I
little
think it
bit.
was 1.35 million.
Yes, that is the magic number for Morgan Barron. So yeah, you really can't complain. And like you said, he's betting on himself. Like this guy could legitimately be a 20 goal scorer if he really puts his
Yeah.
mind to it. And does he get it done in the next 2 years? Hard to say, but I could see the second year of that deal being a 20 goal year for Morgan Barron.
Yeah.
50 points. Do you think that's his ceiling?
I'd say like if he like that's like the very peak of what he could be. I feel like what Lowry is now is kind of what Barron is kind of in role to become, like that really great third line center spot or even just on a wing. But like you see Lowry and what he's able to bring to the team. Like even though Lowry's not the one putting up like 50 plus points, like we're talking about him being like a captain material. So if Barron can be leading into those footsteps of what Lowry is right now, I feel like the Jets core into the future is looking really bright with having these players that are such warriors and such encompasses what Winnipeg is trying to be into the future.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I was talking to Sean Reynolds about it, about this team yesterday, and the one thing that he kept saying was like, a team's really got to encompass its city, and to have a bunch of blue collar guys rolling into Winnipeg, and we're kind of losing that white collar skill minus Nikolai Ehlers. This is going to be a fun team to watch, and yeah, to
Yeah.
encompass Winnipeg, and Morgan Barron's just an archetype of this city. Going over to our other signing that we got done today, Gabe Vilardi, 2 years, $3.43 million. How do you like this deal?
I think this deal is really great. If you go back, I was saying that he's worth like a little, like almost like 5 million on like a 4 year deal. So getting him for 2 years, you're not buying these UFA years. So it keeps that cap hit down, which is really great for the Jets because it keeps the RFA control. And this guy does have an injury history, so it's not going too far into the future where if he's struggling with injury or anything like that, like it's not going to be a cap hit or a deal that is going to be hard to move. So it's kind of a safe bet for the Jets to make that they don't have to pay him over that $3 million mark, like that 3.3, and they still have his RFA status. So if he's a really great player in 2 years, which we all believe he's going to be, almost maybe a 30 goal scorer by the end of that second year, he could be worth a lot more, and we keep his rights. So that is really important, and it keeps the Jets competitive now, and it keeps the Jets competitive into the future by retaining his rights.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of called me out for not knowing what his stats were the last time we were on this podcast. And for those who don't remember, Gabe Vilardi is, well, I would say
A
he's
stud.
studly. He's a stud. Like, you're getting so much for him, and like his defensive game is bar none fantastic. But in 63 games, 23 goals, 18 assists for 41 points, another 40-point guy on this team. uh Really looking like the Jets essentially stole the third line from LA. Do you think this is going to push Adam Lowry down to the fourth line, assuming that everyone is healthy on this squad?
I don't see a way where Adam Lowry's on the fourth line. I think that he was too good with that third line kind of shutdown line.
But do
I
you think
think
that we could like have such a good fourth line that it could be a third line on anyone else's team, and we just have that luxury of having two good third lines?
I think I would still have Lowry on that fourth line or that third line, and then probably have a fourth line of like Kupari, uh, like Axel Johnson, Falby, and maybe Gustafson. Like that might be a good kind of line there. Some Finns and some Swedes there. So I don't see where Lowry doesn't get a third line spot. And I think Vilardi is definitely going to have a chance to be a top six center this year. He was a center in the AHL and in junior, and then kind of got pushed to the wing in LA. And he was a center before, so and the Jets with Shifley's question marks up in the air, and if Perfetti's ever going to get a chance at playing center, I think that he could be a really great player to have play center there and be a great like second line center playing with like Iafallo and Ehlers. Like I feel like that line would be a really great line because you know Vilardi can score the goals. You know Iafallo is gonna just be a great defensive guy grinding in the corners, and you know Ehlers is gonna bring that speed and playmaking. So I feel like that line just complements each other so well with how different pieces of them with just how great they are as players and what their strengths are. I feel like the Jets have a lot of options on what they can do for their lines.
I like it. I like it a lot. Probably got two more questions, but the Jets have like $3.5 million, a little over $3.5 million in cap space left. 3.7 is the official number. Logan, Stanley, and Kapari still need contracts. They're getting signed pretty much, eh?
Yeah, like I'd say like Kupari would be around that like $1 million range, maybe like a 1 or 2 year deal. And like he was a really great bottom six player. And I'm gonna be excited to see what he can bring because he's still only a 23-year-old player playing in the NHL. Like you gotta be intrigued on what this player could become with a little bit more opportunity or a little bit more ice time. So, and he was a really great face-off guy. I remember the entire last year, almost every podcast, a mention would come up about how bad the Jets were at face-offs. And then they bring in this young 23-year-old that had over a 54% in the faceoffs and was a great penalty kill and still young. Like I think that's the exact type of player they need to bring in, and they're the exact type of players that they need to look at giving an opportunity to, because if you're really good at faceoffs and really good defensively, if you can develop that offensive game, like Kupari could be a really great third line center going forward as well.
So that might push Adam Lowry down to the fourth line.
Maybe I would say I would still have Kapari on. I would have Kapari on the fourth line just because Lowry is such an integral part of that shutdown line. So I could see a situation where Kupari is that fourth line center, and then at some point in the future, maybe like a year or two down the road, they just swap where Kupari becomes that third line and Lowry becomes the fourth line. But as of right now, I don't think Kupari is a third line center. Like he might be a third line winger, like, but I don't. I think that they would want to be able to use his face-off skills and just defensive uh, intelligence with him being a center on that fourth line.
Awesome. And our guy Logan Stanley still looking for a contract. You know we love to talk about him. I mean, $3.7 million. Like the numbers got to be there, whether it's a league min deal or even a similar contract to what he had this last time. Is he still a Jet, or do you think he's moving
I
with Stanley or with Scheifele?
I don't see a way where he's still a Jet. Like we saw at the trade deadline that he requested, kind of pseudo requested a trade. Like it looked like he wanted a trade, but then like it wasn't really a trade request. So it's kind of up in the air there. But there's seven defensemen ahead of him, and with the signing of Sandberg, and like Sandberg's actually making some money now, so we don't want to have Sandberg sitting off, and we still have Capobianco. So, and Capobianco wasn't bad either. Like I would rather play Capobianco than Stanley because Stanley just made me frustrated watching him do some questionable plays. So
Yeah, and like Capobianco was a consistent seventh guy. Like you pop him in the lineup and you're like, dang, I hope this guy sticks around, and then he'd get pulled out for whatever silly reason.
yeah,
So yeah, kind of rooting. But the thing with Logan Stanley that's gonna suck, and I talked about this on TikTok last night, was this is a
yeah,
lose-lose situation. Like you're losing a 6'7" defenseman, and if someone teaches him how to be mean, watch out, because a big
yeah.
mean defenseman and a guy that left the Jets, and for whatever reason, former Jets players love to take on the Jets.
Yeah, I think one thing about Logan Stanley too is like he doesn't necessarily need to be moved in a Shifley trade. Like I feel like a trade kind of like the Gonka and Nizev trade, like kind of that one for one prospect swap. So one player that kind of intrigues me is like Nick Robertson from Toronto, like kind of getting that prospect that like maybe a forward prospect that has some issues as well, and then kind of swapping each other's issues for each other, where we have an issue, they have an issue, we swap them, we no longer have an issue type of thing. But I feel like Stanley is just like the one comparison I always see is like him kind of blossoming into his own Jamie Alexiak, and we see how good he is on Seattle right now. And Alexiak took his time to be a really great defenseman. And I feel like if Stanley gets an opportunity, I don't think it's too far fetched to say that he couldn't become like an Alexiak light version, but he makes a lot more dumbfounded penalties that you wouldn't want him to take.
You think that how many penalty minutes did Logan Stanley have last year? I only remember the
Too
Capri's.
many.
Too many. I guess with how many times he played, it was too many. I don't know. Like Logan Stanley is, in my opinion, like I like the Alexiak comparison. That is like solid. Like he's a good defenseman, Logan Stanley, but it's just those boneheaded plays. You're like, man, where is your head at? And like if he played like that 6'7" defenseman where he is a big mean bastard, it wouldn't be an issue, and you could kind of overlook those shortcomings. But he doesn't play that game, and I think not being mean is the thing that's taking Logan Stanley away from the NHL. And
Yeah,
I
and
don't know how
he
well he
had
would do in Toronto though, because that city would destroy him.
yes, it would, but yeah, he had 19 games. He only had 3 points, and he had 21 penalty minutes too. So,
Yikes. Oh,
so
but he
like,
had he had a couple fights though. He had two fights though.
yeah,
Two fights I can
but
remember.
But in his rookie year, he had 37 and he only had 20 or 26 penalty minutes in 37 games. So
Okay, fair enough. I'll
I
take
think
it.
he either has to become a better defenseman where he's not taking as many penalties, or he's going to have to become one of these defensemen, kind of like almost like a Ryan Reeves on defense, where like he's getting a lot of penalties and like being that kind of like almost like an enforcer defenseman rather than like a someone on defense, like someone that's on that bottom pair that you don't give a lot of minutes to, like you give like maybe like 13 minutes, but you know he's gonna go for a big hit. You know he's gonna punch someone in the face if he needs to. So I think that it's really gonna be make or break for Logan Stanley on what type of player he's gonna be in his career.
Absolutely. He's got to choose to be mean. And I hope he finds that step. And hopefully
Yeah.
with the Winnipeg Jets. Because I mean, like, if you could, I don't want to say trade Brennan Dillon, but I mean, you would
Yeah.
just be excited about that idea. Also, going back to Logan Stanley fights, he only had one last year, and it was against Nashville on January 24th. So
Yeah.
there you go. Thanks, hockeyfights.com. I love you.
Gotta quickly talk about the new changes at the Canada Life
Oh,
Center with
yes, we do. Because I
yeah.
want to complain like an old man. Like you're from out of town, but does Scotiabank Arena not do cash anymore, or like anywhere around your area?
They still do cash, but like a lot of people are switching over to like not cash. Like I feel like a lot of people aren't carrying cash as much. So that might be kind of why they do the switch. So they can be more efficient. But I think that eliminating a way of payment altogether is not the way you want to go about changing your efficiency in your hockey operations.
No, so this is where I'm going to be an old man and bitch about something here. I think this is the stupidest thing that you could possibly do. Cash is legal tender, and like there's guys like me who A can't be trusted to take his debit card or credit card to the arena because I will overspend and you just can't have that. And the other thing is they are like, oh, efficiency, because like everyone's got tap. I again don't trust myself with tap because A, I lose my cards all the time, so I can't have tap on. And again, it's just that, oh, I just put it on the card, no issue. And it's just dumb that they're getting rid of it. I think the one thing though is these damn kids these days. There's a lot of people that don't know how to count money correctly. Uh, and
Yeah.
that's just one of those skills that I was very blessed to learn because I worked at a farmer's market where we only worked with cash up until I left, and then magically my grandmother managed to get a debit machine for this stupid stall. But um, but yeah, it's a skill you need to learn how to count back cash, and if the register's down, it's gonna suck. And like Rogers had that outage last year where your cards weren't working anywhere across Canada. So what's going to happen? You're going to have some big event happening at Canada Life Center, and then, well, we can't accept cash. Well, no sales there. Like they're kicking themselves down not accepting cash. So
Yeah.
bozo move in my opinion. I really hope it gets reversed. And I've heard rumblings that's kind of low-key illegal not to accept cash. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure if it's not like illegal, but I think that it's just a step in the wrong direction because some people might only want to deal with cash, like you said, like they might want to budget themselves and like if they're going with children or something like that, they don't want to give their children like a $20 bill to go do something or like $40. They don't want to give their card and then the kid go spend so
big
much
money,
because
yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like I feel like it's really going against what hockey should be. Like I feel like it should be where like you go and you kind of like a lot of people might have like a set budget or on what they want to do, but now their people are being forced to kind of change their ways on how they approach going to a hockey game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, let's be real. Going to a hockey game, unless you're going to the Manitoba Moose, is an expensive ordeal.
Yeah.
And even going to the Moose, like, I don't know how many people could like just go to a game a month with their kids. It's like it's a game a season almost at this point. So,
Yeah.
um, I was gonna blame inflation, but it's down to 2.1%, so I can't blame it on that. I'll just have to find Mark Shipman and demand that he lowers those prices.
Yeah.
All right, Ray, thank you so much for the quick mini pod on this fine Wednesday. You enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we'll talk about the Sunday
Yeah.
podcast because, yeah, you know me, always busy with the radio
Yeah.
stations. Have yourself a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Go Jets, go.
Go Jets, go.